On September 25th this year, Ukrainian President
Volodymyr Zelensky
said that the country, thanks to the USA, has already received NASA surface air missile systems. Earlier, the Pentagon announced that Ukraine would receive the first 2 batteries of NASA surface-to-air missile systems within the next 2 months. In this video, we'll talk about this surface-to-air missile system and try to understand how it will affect the Russian-Ukrainian war. Until recently, the Ukrainian air defense system consisted of Soviet S-300 and Bu surface-to-air missile systems that were 30 years old. Despite their antiquity, they're still capable of defending Ukraine. At least Russian ground-to-air missiles cannot fly freely over the country, and more than 250 of them have already been destroyed. But Russia uses not only airplanes, but also Caliber cruise missiles and air-launched cruise missiles, KH-101. This is not counting the counter-operational tactical missiles and the KINs, all hypersonic missiles. In this case, it's the antiquity of the Ukrainian air. For example, to destroy the Caliber with the probability of 50%, it's necessary to use 3 to 4 anti-aircraft missiles. In addition, these anti-aircraft missiles are running out, and there's simply no place to buy new ones. So the need for modern anti-aircraft missile systems in Ukraine is enormous. And here's the first swallow: the complex is NAS. It's a weapon of a principally different. These systems were created by Europeans for themselves and their network-centric warfare concept. NASAMS stands for the Norwegian Advanced Surface-to-Air Missile System. It was created by the Norwegian defense company, Kongsberg Defense and Aerospace, and the American giant Raytheon. As already noted, the Europeans made the system with their specifics in mind. Unlike the Soviet air defense concept, which relied on surface-to-air missile, the Western approach prioritizes a powerful fighter aircraft. With this in mind, Norwegian and US designers created a ground platform that allows the ground-based firing of missiles that are also used by aircraft. The complex itself is quite young. The development of the first generation of NASAMS began in the early 1990s after Western specialists had come to understand the essence of network-centric warfare. This understanding is reflected in the architecture of the complex. The launchers and radar are separated from their control points. This allows NASA's operators to engage air targets without fear of retaliation, even if the enemy spots where the missile was launched from or successfully uses anti-radar munitions. In the worst case, only part of the iron will be. The specialist controlling the system will remain unharmed and, depending on the situation, leave the dangerous area or activate backup radars and launchers and continue the fight. It is this design that's given the complex definition of a distributed system and has tremendous combat survivability. The survivability of the system is increased by the fact that all modules are mounted on cross-country vehicles, which allows them to quickly change positions, and information exchange inside the combat control system is carried out both via radio channel and field cable. The latter makes it impossible to break the transfer of data from the command post to the launchers using electronic warfare, nor is it possible to detect elements of the complex using electronic recon. The complex is not only radars but also an optoelectronic tracking station, which also allows it to wait for the target without giving away its presence. In addition, like many other NATO systems, NASAMS can receive external target designation from ships, ground radars, and OAS aircraft. The latter is very important for Ukraine. With Russia's total air and missile superiority, the Ukrainian air defense system can only operate in ambush. That is, NATO AWA aircraft flying continuously along the perimeter of Ukraine provide detection of Russian planes and missiles. They transmit to the Ukrainian air defense system the coordinates and time of the entry of the Russian target into the zone of its defeat. All Ukrainians have to do is briefly turn on the radar of their air defense missile system at a given time, lock on the target, aim an anti-aircraft missile at it, and destroy it. This takes only 1 or 2. During this time, the Russians do not have time to aim their anti-aircraft missiles at Ukrainian radars. But as Ukraine is still using the Soviet anti-aircraft missile systems, it's necessary to express gratitude to the NATO specialists who managed to combine their AWA aircraft and Soviet S-300 and Bu M1 into one system. With the Norwegian NASAMS, there will not be such a problem at all. The necessary data will be transmitted to them even faster. 3 generations of the system have been created so far. The first one was put into service in 1998 and has the medium-range AIM-120mm aircraft missile as its main munition. It's converted for the ground launch, equipped with an active radar homing head, and carries a fragmentation demolition warhead. The second generation went into service in 2000. Its key difference from its predecessor is an improved control system and an increased number of launchers, as well as the placement of all elements on vehicles with increased off-road capability. In 2019, the NASAMS-3 was introduced, which has an expanded range of missiles. These complexes can launch short-range missiles with AIM-9 Sidewinder and IRIS TSLs, infrared targeting heads, as well as a MAMR extended range missile. It's most likely that the NAS-2 was transferred to Ukraine, so let's take a closer look at it. A complete NAS-2 battery consists of 12 launchers, each with 6 o'clock AM 120 AMAM missiles, 8 o'clock AM MPK-64F1, improved Sentinel radars, 1 fire distribution center, 1 vehicle with an electronic optical camera, and 1 tactical control cell vehicle. The KA range is 2.5 to 25 kilometers. The altitude range is from 30 meters to 16 kilometers. The probability of hitting the target with a single missile is 8.5. The maximum target velocity is 1,000 meters per second, so masses can destroy ISS and daggers, but any aircraft and calibers are legitimate targets. Now let's talk about the impact of this surface-to-air missile system on the course of the Russian-Ukrainian conflict. At first glance, it did seem what can choose surface-to-air missile systems do in a theater of war over 2,000 kilometers long. That's more than the distance from New York to Miami and equal to the distance from New York to Oklahoma City or Have. After all, before the Russian-Ukrainian war, Ukraine only had about 250s, 300 and B-1 launchers in its arsenal. We can safely say that at least 70% of them are destroyed. So how can 2 complexes 24 NASAMS launchers help? Firstly, 24 missile launchers equals 144 missiles. The probability of hitting 1 missile is 8. Even if not all of the 24 launchers will have time to shoot back. Some of them will be destroyed by the Russians for sure, but even if the overall probability of destruction is 0.5, that's 72 Russian aircraft and cruise missiles, and that's a significant number. Second, the threat of destruction would force Russian pilots to hit targets only with long-range missiles, as it's happening now, and this is expensive and slow. If you could treat the target with free-falling cheap air, have you ever wondered why not a single Ukrainian bridge across the Dnieper River that carries Western weapons has been destroyed? Yes, because it cannot be destroyed by the caliber, and the Ukrainian air defense system does not allow it to cover it with 3-ton bomb. And finally, thirdly, who said that only 2 units will be delivered? What prevents the US from increasing deliveries is necessary. That said, the total volume of deliveries is very large. After all, NAS is in service in 15 countries. The technology of its production is mature, and the total number of AIM-120 missiles produced exceeds 14,000 units. That's enough to destroy all military aviation of. And in conclusion, let's answer the last question that our viewers may have. Why doesn't the US immediately supply Ukraine with a number of weapons? Firstly, 24 missile launchers equals 144 missiles. The probability of hitting 1 missile is 8. Even if not all of the 24 launchers will have time to shoot back. Some of them will be destroyed by the Russians for sure. But even if the overall probability of destruction is 0.5, that's 72 Russian aircraft and cruise missiles, and that's a significant number. Second, the threat of destruction would force Russian pilots to hit targets only with long-range missiles, as it's happening now. And this is expensive and slow. If you could treat the target with free-falling cheap air, have you ever wondered why not a single Ukrainian bridge across the Dnieper River that carries Western weapons has been destroyed? Yes, because it cannot be destroyed by the caliber, and the Ukrainian air defense system does not allow it to cover it with 3-ton bomb. And finally, thirdly, who said that only 2 units will be delivered? What prevents the US from increasing deliveries is necessary. That said, the total volume of deliveries is very large. After all, NAS is in service in 15 countries. The technology of its production is mature, and the total number of AIM-120 missiles produced exceeds 14,000 units. That's enough to destroy all military aviation of. And in conclusion, let's answer the last question that our viewers may have. Why doesn't the US immediately supply Ukraine with a number of weapons? It needs to win for Russia. In the same case, there would be fewer casualties and destruction. There are 2 reasons. The first is that it's impossible to quickly train a large number of Ukrainian soldiers to fight with Western weapons. And most importantly, the US and its Western allies are forced to supply weapons very carefully metered, in order not to provoke the Russian bear into a sharp escalation, up to and including the use of nuclear weapons. This can be called a slow heat frog strategy, gradually supply arms so as to not provoke the uncontrollable rage of the Russian bear, but in the end to saturate Ukraine with modern weapons and win this. What do you think about the NASA surface-to-air missile system? Can it significantly affect the nature of hostilities in Ukraine? And what do you think of the frog's slow heat strategy? Or maybe we shouldn't be so afraid of Russia and start helping Ukraine more decisively? Write about it in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, please like it, thank its creators, and don't forget to subscribe to our. There will be many more interesting videos about modern weapons. Now, like all, this video has also come to its end, but not the journey. Click on the videos on screen to view more videos, which will increase your knowledge and will keep you entertained at the same time.